So we just got the trailer for Transformers 1, and honestly, I'm just as hyped to break down this trailer as I am to see it in September. So we're going to break the trailer down frame by frame to find Easter eggs and some potential ideas of what the plot could be about. So in the first shot, we see Orion and D16 in what seems to be a holding cell as they're getting ready to be punished for whatever crime they did. After looking through the trailer, it's safe to say that this scene happens after their jetpack joyride at the Icon 5000. But something important to note here is the sense of camaraderie between Orion and D16 being displayed. Oftentimes when their backstory is explained in more mainstream media, we don't see how brotherly their relationship really is. It's only alluded to, which in some aspects it works, such as when it was explored in Transformers Prime as a background for Optimus losing his memory when he unloaded the Matrix energy to defeat Unicron in the season finale. So seeing it on full display here will really add to the emotional weight that comes with their conflicts, as there are numerous times where Optimus hesitates to kill Megatron because deep down he really wants to repair his relationship with him so that they can build a better future together. Next we have our first look at Darkwing, who in standard Transformers media is nothing more than a Decepticon foot soldier, but in the Marvel comics, he was the first Cybertronian to become a Power Master, which is essentially when a Transformer binds themselves to an organic partner as another source of energy or power. I bring this up because this is the first time in a while that we're seeing the more expansive side of the Transformers lore in a feature-length film, and with that, we can see different planets like Nebulon, who invented the Power Master technology. So if Dreadwing does that in a future film, make sure to come back to this video and say that I called it. Moving on, we see Orion and D16 get dumped in Waste Management where they meet B-127. But before we get to that, it's important to note that Darkwing can fly and isn't missing his T-Cog, so he could very well be a high-ranking Cybertronian and it might give him more of an important role in the film. After that, we see our two protagonists meet B-127, Bumblebee's designation before he gets his real name. This was something that was started in the Bumblebee movie. Now as to how he got that name in the live action films, we don't know yet, but here it seems to be common for workers to have a letter and number as their assigned name. It's also important to note that Orion doesn't have a serial number for his name, so he might be a rank above D16 as a dock worker, which is why he has a somewhat normal name. Anyways, back to B here. For fans who've known him from the Bayverse, it might be jarring to see Bumblebee be as talkative as he is, but this isn't a new personality trait for him. His personality in this film seems to take heavy inspiration from his Transformers animated counterpart, which has been one of the best Bumblebee adaptations in recent years. So to get a good feel for him as a character, I recommend checking out Transformers Animated where Bumper Robinson voices him. Now here's the holy grail himself, Optimus Prime in all of his animated glory. And I've got to say, this is one heck of a design for Optimus, already one of his better designs in recent memory. Anyways, I like how prominent the Matrix is in this design, as it further cements itself as a unique Prime design, as in most iterations, the Matrix is hidden behind his chest. So it'll be interesting to see if this changes how he approaches battles since the Matrix seems to be more exposed. Now, this isn't a major detail, but I do love how because they're worker bots, they have details in their robot modes that correspond to their job, such as flashlights on their helmets and B having a welder mask. Next, we see a glimpse of what their day-to-day work looks like, which is mining and drilling for Energon. But if you look closely at it, not only is it blue, but it also has a purplish tint to it. Now, I'm not saying that it's a huge indicator of anything, especially because Energon in G1 started off as pink, and has since changed to a variety of colors since then, but just keep in mind that Dark Energon is purple as well, so it might be a small hint towards something else to come. This is perhaps the most overlooked part of the trailer because here is where the cameo fest will more than likely begin. So in this shot we have Brawn, Jazz, Sideswipe, Sunstreaker, Moonracer, Hound, and a couple of random bots here. Now according to TF Hype Guy on Twitter, Wheeljack is supposed to be in the shot, but I think we'll clearly see him in the full scene because none of the other bots resemble Wheeljack so far. While she does have her moments to shine in the trailer, here we have our first look at Elita-One, and it'll be interesting to see how the film will handle her story. Unlike G1, she won't start off as Ariel, who would later be rebuilt as Elita-One alongside Optimus Prime. However, she'll serve as Orion and D16's supervisor, so it'll be nice to see her in a leadership position before she becomes the badass we know her to be. Here's a beautiful shot of Cybertron, and I just have to say that I really appreciate how vibrant it feels and how it takes on a personality of its own. For those of you who may not know, in the world of Transformers, they have their own cities, and in the next shot, you'll see that this is the city of Iacon. In most continuities, Iacon serves as a capital for the Autobots and is generally seen as the metropolis of Cybertron pre-war, with the bustling city life and events that celebrate the polity's wealth. Speaking of the city's wealth, one of the biggest events for the city is of course the Icon 5000, which is a callback to the event in the Marvel UK comics. This is an event where all the fastest Cybertronians gather to see who among them is the fastest, and honestly it's great to see things like this in a Transformers film because it adds more to the idea that these are sentient beings with their own culture, language, ideals, and etc. Also, it's nice to see how much the writers understand what Orion Pax was like before he became Optimus. He's naive, eager, and willing to take more calculated risks because he has a young spirit and doesn't quite understand the gravity of defying the norm. It'll be interesting to see how it contrasts once he becomes Optimus and how he uses his past experiences to navigate relationships with younger Autobots. Next, we have a beautiful shot of D16 as it looks like he's really feeling the weight of something he's seen or heard, which will be a pivotal part of his arc in becoming Megatron because we're supposed to feel empathy towards him as he undergoes this dark and traumatic journey. Something else to point out in the shot is D16 is wearing a black helmet. This is a callback to his original design in the Marvel Comics where he has a black helmet instead of his traditional gray. Then we get another beautiful shot of D16, but this time we see that he has become Megatron as his eyes are now a scarlet red and embers surround him as he has just forged the Decepticon insignia. One thing that I really love about this scene is that you get a sense that whatever happens to D16, the pain of those memories will carry over into his adulthood as Megatron and will really add to the emotional aspect of his rivalry with Optimus. After that, we go back to D16 and it appears that he's taking in the sight of the Decepticon logo covered in moss. However, this isn't just any Decepticon logo. This area is known as the Tomb of the Primes, and this is the resting place of Megatronus Prime, aka the Fallen. Much like many Transformer characters, Megatronus has multiple origins, but the common point for his origin is that he's the first Decepticon, usually betraying the other Primes in some fashion. So it'll be interesting to see what story they use for the Fallen and how it might influence D16. Another small detail is that D16 already has a Decepticon insignia on his arm, but if you look closely, it's a variation of it, so not the exact one that he forges later on. People have already speculated that this symbol might carry a negative connotation for lower class bots, and modeling it after someone like the Fallen would make sense, as he's seen as a stain on Cybertron's history. Next, we have a wide shot of what appears to be the Nemesis, but considering this is an origin, it wouldn't make sense for the Decepticons to have the Nemesis already. Instead, this is a modified version of the Quintesson ship, which used to look like a weird corkscrew, so this is definitely an upgrade. I also like how this is a weird mashup of technology and organic parts to make the ship feel like it's a sentient being as well. In this shot, we also see down below Sentinel Prime and his gathering of elite guard bots awaiting the Quintesson's arrival. Again, nothing major in this shot, but Orion bringing jetpacks is a subtle callback to G1, where the Autobots couldn't fly and frequently relied on jetpacks for flight. Then we get an up-close shot of the Icon 5000, and man, this looks like it's going to make for a great chase sequence as we get to see Orion and D16 dodging racers and causing mayhem on the track. Looking closely behind them, you see a bright green car-truck hybrid. Now, I'm not saying this is him for certain, but there's a possibility this could be Springer, because Springer is like the jock amongst the Autobots, so it would make sense that he would participate in the Icon 5000. But hey, that's just a theory. A planet-adjacent theory. No, doesn't work? Alright, moving on. Next, we get a nice banter moment between Orion and D16, with the latter stating that if they survive, he'll kill him, which might be an emotional callback later on in the film or trilogy, as we know films love to do this. We are then treated to another chase sequence, this time taking place on a train that will lead them to the surface. And once again, we see the beauty of Cybertron's complexities as we see buildings hanging upside down on the interior of Cybertron. The way it's set up reminds me a lot of an ant colony, where you have these complex structures that each have their own unique systems to keep them operational. So it'll be interesting to see how these structures were built and what technology was used by the Constructicons to build them. If I hadn't said enough, I would have to say it again, but look at these beautiful shots of Cybertron. Like, this is something that we've never seen before with Cybertron in any continuity. The only one that comes close is Cyberverse, where the show gave us different landscapes of the planet beyond the futuristic cityscapes, but now seeing it with a Hollywood budget just makes me appreciate the creativity behind it even more, and I can't wait to see more of this in the film. However, that isn't the only interesting thing in this shot. As the crew makes their way to the surface, we see that the train ride is interrupted by these large crystal-esque structures that jut from Cybertron's surface and continue to protrude as more of the landscape is revealed. At first, it looks like it could just be living metal, as Cybertron is Primus, but upon further examination, I believe we're looking at Crystal City. The unique shapes of each structure and reflective surface kind of give it away. In G1, Crystal City was built by the Constructicons and was guarded by Omega Supreme. But based on the plot of Transformers 1, I don't think we'll see either one of them considering the surface of Cybertron has been abandoned. Adding to the beauty of Cybertron's landscape, we see what appears to be our first look at Cybertron wildlife as deer-like creature. Some people may think this is our first instance of wildlife on Cybertron, but it isn't. In G1, Mirage's profile states how he and his upper-class friends used to hunt turbo foxes before the war, and in Cyberverse, Laserbeak is a species of cyberbird. So it's great to see the creative team behind Transformers 1 is pulling from all sectors of the Transformers universe to bring this film to life. In the next shot, we see the gang's reaction to the poor Cyberdeer being destroyed. But another detail to love about this is the synthwave style sun in the background. A nice callback to 1980s pop culture, which is the same decade the Transformers would debut, and synthwave was a popular choice in science fiction movies. This is also an underrated shot in the trailer, as we get a glimpse of what the entrance to the Tomb of the Primes looks like. And once again, we see that it's much more organic than the rest of Cybertron, with plant life all around it. I have a suspicion as to why it's like that, and you'll see why in the next shot. So, in this shot we see Onyx Prime, another one of the original 13 Primes. Unlike his siblings, Onyx was more in tune with nature, and as such, served as an ancestor for Beast Transformers. So Onyx may be responsible for integrating organic-esque life on Cybertron. Making his movie debut, we get our first look at Alpha Trion, and he doesn't look like the wise Cybertronian we know him to be. Instead, this is an Alpha Trion that looks like he's seen some things, as he looks more battle damaged than usual. Not to mention that he's also covered in moss, which tells us how long he's been lying dormant in that cave. Next we see Alpha Trion summon 4 T-Cogs from dormant primes, which this yellow one we see at the bottom of our screens shares a striking resemblance to the original Sentinel Prime design from the Marvel Comics. Now we know this isn't him, but a nice little Easter egg for one of the first primes in Transformers lore. For those of you who don't know, a T-Cog is the biomechanism that allows Cybertronians to not only transform into vehicles, but also other bodily functions such as their weapon system. In most continuities, because it's part of their biology, it's something that they're born with. However, this is yet again a callback to G1, because when the Quintessons occupied an early Cybertron, the early Cybertronians weren't built with the ability to transform. It wouldn't be until later that the art of transforming was discovered by the planet's first civil war. And, by, you guessed it, Sentinel Prime. Now, there isn't much happening in this shot, but I just want to take the time to commend Chris Hemsworth for doing a pretty good job with his Orion voice. He's doing a great job of putting his own unique spin on Orion, and it really shows with the enthusiasm of the character as well. All in all, this will make for one of the more memorable takes on Orion, and I wouldn't be surprised to see this take on him inspire new iterations in the future. In the next shot, we see the return of the Viacons, but not just any Viacons. These are the same ones from the Transformers Prime continuity. Seeing how much of a mark they left on the fandom, it's great to see them return in a big way. And not only that, but they seem to be part of Sentinel's elite guard. So it's nice to see them get an upgraded role in Transformers media, even though they'll still be cannon fodder. Then we get a sequence of our main bots finally getting their T-Cogs, and I appreciate scenes like this because it adds a sense of joy and wonder in Transformers that we don't get to see often because it's so focused on the tragedies of war. It also adds a genuine feeling of adolescence as we see these young bots discovering their newfound abilities in real time. We then get a glimpse of B-127's vehicle mode, which is yet another live action universe Easter egg, as he shares the same vehicle mode with a Knight/Cableverse version of Bumblebee. In the next couple shots, we get an idea of who the overarching villain of the film will be, and it's none other than the Quintessons. In G1, the Quintessons were minor villains in the 1986 movie, but would play a bigger role in seasons 3 and 4 of the original series. During these seasons, it was revealed that they were the creators of the Transformers, but due to an uprising from their creations, they were forced to flee the planet. However, they would return and would constantly pit the Autobots and Decepticons against each other as their twisted way of conducting experiments on their creation's evolution. Based on the interactions with Sentinel, I have a theory that they might use him as their liaison to govern Cybertron in their absence. Speaking of Sentinel, he takes major design cues from his animated counterpart with his blue color, and takes some inspiration from his Bayverse counterpart with his cape design. Personality-wise, Sentinel will also be based on his animated counterpart, where he is revered as a hero to some, but is a douchebag to others around him, and would definitely do anything to make him look like a hero to the right people. It's also worth noting that the matrix of leadership in this film will be a mysterious relic, and seeing how it looks when Orion gets it later, it's safe to assume that Sentinel doesn't have it, and is more than likely bearing the title of Prime as an artificial homage to Cybertron's past leaders. Exploring the idea of a false Prime in contrast to a young Orion Pax would be interesting to see explored in the plot, and would be a nice homage to Sentinel and Optimus' relationship in Transformers Animated. Speaking of the plot, in the next couple of scenes we get an idea of how some pieces are putting the plot together, as we see Elita-One save a Seeker from one of the Elite Guard Vehicons. For those who don't know, the Seekers are a sub-faction of the Decepticon army and are usually led by the Decepticons second in command Starscream. So it'll be interesting to see their roles in this functionalist society and what leads them to eventually follow Megatron. After that, we see Elita-One deliver some sweet action against the Vehicons, utilizing her vehicle mode in combat to make for a combat style akin to her Earthspark counterpart. We then get to see more of the Seekers as they seem to be cheering for the ongoing revolution against the Viacon control. And we can see a couple of famous Seekers such as Thundercracker and Sunstorm. Perhaps one of my favorite scenes in the trailer is when we get to see more creative uses of the character's Cybertronian modes, as Orion uses the exhausts on the side of his vehicle as a boost to propel him in the sky to take on more of the Viacon forces. Then, one of the more exciting shots of the trailer is when we get to see Arachnid. I knew she was going to be in the movie, but it was still so surreal seeing her in the trailer, because Arachnid was such a staple of Transformers Prime, and seeing Prime characters be officially integrated into the wider Transformers world just makes me happy to see. So the scene looks like it takes place in the same mining area as Orion, Elita, and the Seekers. Now, we can't tell what side she's fighting for, but if you watch Transformers Prime, you know that she only joins the side if it benefits her. So it'll be interesting to see what her logic is for joining Sentinel Prime, and what will be her reason for turning on him later. I'm not sure if it's possible for a trailer to have two Holy Grails, but this trailer definitely has it, because here we see the other major players in the Decepticon faction: Starscream, Shockwave, and Soundwave. Now, it's important to note that they don't have a Decepticon insignia just yet, so it'll be interesting to see what their role will be in the grand scheme of things. Of the three, I'm most interested in seeing what they do with Shockwave's character and how he fits into the Quintesson origin they seem to be doing. Because in that version of the Transformers origin, Shockwave was an older Cybertronian model, hence why he looks so much different than most Transformers. Then in IDW, he was once a senator of Cybertron, but due to him speaking out against their corrupt ways, Sentinel had him undergo an Impurata procedure that removed his head and hands in favor of an emotionless face and cold emotions. So it'll be interesting to see which route they take here. This is where the trailer starts to pick up the pace with quicker cuts. In the first scene, we see a Viacon fire at this beast-like Transformer. But luckily, due to some of the first wave of Transformer 1 toys being revealed with the trailer, we know that this is Alpha Trion. This also isn't the first time he's turned into a beast. In his Titans Return line, he transformed into a lion. Honestly, I like that Alpha Trion will have a unique alt mode again, instead of just a repurposed sweeps alt mode. And I hope that this means he'll have a large role in the film or subsequent films going forward, considering that he's only regulated to the mysterious old man in most of his appearances. We then get this beautiful wide shot of Cybertron as the planet is engaged in war, and this is such a dope shot as we see just how big the interior of Cybertron really is and the scale of the conflict. I also like how you see that the entire planet is active in this conflict. As you see in the right hand corner, there's a train that seems to be generating tracks as it crosses the battlefield, possibly carrying troops that can't fly. Next, we get our best look at a cameo character, and this is none other than Skywarp, a seeker with the ability to teleport in short distances, and we can see him engage in aerial combat with the flying Viacon. This is another one of those shots that give us a small hint towards a plot, as we see Cybertronians uniting together to ward off the threat of the Quintessons. And this just makes me wonder what will be the reason that will divide them into their respective factions down the line, and will we see that reason explored further in the film. Then we see a sequence of Bumblebee discovering his new abilities with his battle mask and knife hands, both of which are callbacks to some of his previous Transformers incarnations. The battle mask is a callback to his original G1 toy where he had this battle mask as his regular face, and his knife hands are a callback to his animated counterpart with his battle stingers. In the final sequence of the trailer, we get more of the film's humor, with B putting his knife hands to the test by cutting up a room, and then we get a shot of Orion and Elita, who is carrying an unconscious arachnid, which might hint towards her role as a double agent in the film. It then cuts back to B, and if you look in the very back, there's a secret character behind B, and it's none other than the Autobots' supercomputer Elita-One, who eventually becomes an essential part of the Autobots' journey to Earth. Another possible Autobot cameo is this light blue and white colored Autobot, which could be Mirage, given the fact that they both have the same head shape and vents on the side of their face. But yeah, that's the full breakdown of Transformers 1 trailer, and man, I can't wait till September. Seeing how much this trailer gave us, I hope they don't over market it and potentially spoil stuff in future TV spots and trailers. If they give us another trailer, it should focus on establishing a serious tone so people can stop complaining about how lighthearted it is. I for one welcome this tone, given that it's a pre-war story and it's important to establish the character's personality without the dreaded feeling of war always looming. Establishing this tone will help us feel the pain of the war later, as we probably won't see these characters feel this way for a while, as we know the war will eventually last for millennia. Alrighty guys, and that concludes the first ever trailer breakdown on this channel, and man, it still feels so surreal, because I grew up watching a lot of people break down Transformers trailers, and now I'm in a position to do it myself and maybe inspire someone along the way. With the breakdown done, the Mirage video will definitely be coming you guys' way soon, so make sure you hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video with friends and family who want a better understanding of Transformers, because Planet Jason will be the stop for that. Peace.